Good morning. That's no damn thing. Here with another update on Friday for Samson Cree Nation on pandemic responses and what's going on out there in a big wide world. So I just want to just start off by saying that that we all know now that the Alberta government has released the protocols on how to slowly get Alberta open again. Get the economy kind of trying to get it kick-started. I know the Alberta government is working really hard to work on the protocols and all the rules and regulations to try and get our, so we can start getting haircuts, opening up the golf courses, open up restaurants. So they've been busy at work and they've opened it out. But there's a caution to all of that. We had a meeting with Minister Wilson, the Indigenous Affairs Minister for the Alberta government, just the other day, and the caution is that all Albertans, we're all in this together. We'll open up the province of Alberta, but we still have to be safe. Just because they're opening up the province doesn't mean that COVID has disappeared. That we are still a year away, probably from a vaccine and a cure. But we've definitely got we're definitely on the, as Minister Wilson said, we're on the downside of the curve, right? So we're getting less and less infections in Alberta. So it's time to open up. So our prayers are still going to go out to the city of Calgary and to the community of Brookso because because of the infection rate still in those two communities, because of the meatpacking plants, right? They've had some major outbreaks in the meatpacking plants in those areas, right? And they're still open, right? So or still closed, right? So they're still closed. So hopefully a couple of weeks they're going to open up those towns, and we'll start to recover from the pandemic that we all had shut down on. Some of the good news numbers that we've been seeing that we get, Harper will be on here soon too, but we get the same reports, and some of the reports I've been getting, and this was from May 11th. There were 6,300 Alberta cases of positive cases in Alberta, but the good news of that is that 4,659 have recovered. So people are recovering from this. The magic number I always find when you read the news, and every person, if you read the news, you make up your minds, but it's the magic number is 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks goes by, it gives time for people to recover and to heal from this. And if they can isolate and it doesn't spread anymore, there's that many less people, that many incidents of COVID in our regions, right? So for all of our people who are still ill with COVID and are still sick, most definitely our prayers are out for you for a speedy recovery from this, right? But the good news is people are recovering. And, for this morning, I had 29, but Harper updated me, confirmed cases now on reserve in Alberta are 30, okay? But the good news again, of those 30, 14 have recovered. So people are recovering from First Nations people on reserve, okay? I got a separate report in all of Alberta because, we've only been tracking on reserve infections of First Nations people. Well, I just got another report from the Alberta government and they're tracking all First Nations people who report as First Nations who have been tested positive. And they said right now there's currently 93 cases in Alberta, on reserve and off reserve. About 60 plus people off reserve have caught COVID, and they're in different levels of recovery, right? Some have recovered, and so it definitely prayers going out to everybody. I guess the message here is, we're on the plus side, I guess, but still caution should be the word of the day. Just because the government's easing restrictions in Alberta, the virus is still there. It's still out there. It's still, and then if it gets a hold on the community, and again, our prayers going out to meatpacking plant employees, right? Our frontline workers are providing food security for everybody, right? COVID got a hold of all the workers there, and it just spread like wildfire. And that's all it takes. It just sort of takes one infection to enter into a community, a closed community, and it will spread. And that's always been my fear, and I've always said over and over again, my biggest fear about reserve is that all of our elders are retired here, right? And that's always why I never want, COVID to catch hold on our First Nations communities, is simply because, our elders do live in these communities. We are closed communities, and, and if we have COVID in the wrong event, the wrong area, person's coughing in a wrong crowd, it'll spread like wildfire, and it puts our elders at risk in our communities. So it's kind of why I always, I'm so grateful, the best news for so far, and it's because of the great work of all the people here in Musqueam and our surrounding community partners like Wetaskiwin and Ponoka, right? There's zero infections here in Musqueam still, and that comes from the great work of everybody involved, our emergency management teams, our healthcare professionals, our ambulance workers, our RCMP, all of our frontline workers, everyone's doing their part, and we're still at zero, and I'm very grateful for that, So, I'm just really grateful that we're down to zero, and I'm just grateful. Just want to talk quickly, give you a quick update here. On our election, okay, it's in the air. We're supposed to have an election right now. We're one of the first nations in Canada that had to postpone due to the pandemic. We had to postpone our election. We're supposed to have our election starting last Tuesday. Actually, every Tuesday, the rules of the election law state that every Tuesday we're supposed to have nominations. Next Tuesday is the election for chief. Next Tuesday, nomination council. Last Tuesday is the election for council. Right. So every Tuesday, we're supposed to have an event here to have our elections here, and we've had to postpone. And I'm going to say this right now. I don't regret postponing, okay? Simply because, when we made the decision to postpone the election about, I think it was like a month and a half, 2 months ago, we didn't know how bad this COVID was going to be, And one of the lessons you're going to learn for all of you wannabe chiefs and councillors out there who are biting at the bit, wanting an election right now, and then there's some of you out there, because some of you have been stomping around the band office looking for BCRs, and you know who you are, okay? There are people out there like that right now. I want to caution everybody. One of the things about leadership is that there are prices to pay for some of the decisions you make. And so when you're in leadership, you have to weigh those decisions. You have to ask yourself, what price do I want people to pay for this decision? And I'll give you one example, and it happens all the time. We give out $100 every September for a clothing allowance for PCD for our people, right? And typically it's been around $100. Well, one year we had an influx of cash into our budgeting, our process a few years back, and so we're able to give out a little bit more. And we had discussions at council, should we give out $125? And eventually we made that decision at council to give out $125. Well, that day we gave out $125. There was quite a few parties that happened in our community, because it happens. We had a lot of parties that happened in our community, and we had to apprehend 11 children that day. And that weighs on your soul when you're on council, especially when you're chief, when it happens on your watch. I supported a decision to jump from 100 to 125, and I never understood how come. What's the difference between 100 and 125? And then someone educated me then once and told me that when we get $100, people in their mind, it's a psychological thing. They have a budget for the 100. Okay, I'm going to spend this much on food, this much on phone cards, this much on bills, and they have that 100 kind of pre-budgeted. When they get 125, 25 is extra. And that's where the parties come from, right? And so we essentially jumped up to 125, and there was a segment of our population that basically decided to party with that money, and 11 children got apprehended. And, and I'm not even sure if those kids got to go home yet. But that's a decision that happens. You make those decisions, and there's consequences, right? When COVID-19 happened, it was spreading like wildfire through the world. It was in China first, jumping over to Italy, jumping over Europe, and if you all look, we can all judge President Trump from a distance, right? We're in Canada, and we look at what's going on down there, but the states kind of reacted slow. They reacted slow to shutting down their country, and you see the numbers that are of the infection rates and the death rates in the States. They're pretty high. I mean, if you take a look at it, just do the math. We are 1/10 the population of the States. You look at how many people have died in the States, and if you divide that by 10, that's how many should be in Canada. We are not even close. We are Canada shut down immediately, and our rates are really, really low compared to our neighbors in the South, and decisions, when you're in politics, you have to make decisions, and there's consequences, and so we made a decision, okay? And the decision for me was simply based that, COVID is going to kill certain people. It's going to kill certain segments of our people if it gets into our community, and I was not going to risk having people get infected during the election process and spreading it in our community. The potential was there. Okay? So we postponed it, and I don't regret it. It's kept our people safe. Emergency management people like Harper and his whole team, like Holly Johnson, all those food handlers out there, all of our security guards who are keeping our town sites safe. All those people have sprung into action, and we've been able to keep it out of our community. And they've done an amazing job, and I really applaud the efforts that they've done. Our emergency management team, they've done a great job in keeping our community safe. So we're here now. Okay, we're all trying to figure out how do we relaunch the world. The pandemic, the world's reaction was to shut the world down. And the world did that. It was easy. We shut the world down. Our country shut everything down. They imposed social distancing. They shut down companies. They shut down businesses. And they asked people to stay home in an effort, again, that magic number of 2 weeks. How can we get people who have been infected to heal, and we can get beyond, trying to drop the numbers of future infections, right? So the world shut down. So now the world's trying to figure out how to reopen, and nobody knows how, because we've never been in this world pandemic situation like this before, in modern times anyways. And so we're all trying to figure out, how do we reopen? And so I know with the Alberta government, they've been busy. We all know that. It's in the news. They've been busy trying to write the rules. How do we open up barbershops? How do we open up golf courses? How do we open up food stores? How do we open up, what are the rules for opening up restaurants, right? They have to create those protocols, those rules. Okay, and then they get them approved by their medical health authorities. Is this a way of opening up businesses without the chance of spreading COVID? And and they approve them, and then they launch it, and then they reopen businesses, right? And there's something psychological about being asked to stay home. We've been asked to stay home for 5 to 6 weeks, and I get it. It can get hard on the soul. We're social beings, and we need human contact. And for those people, I know there was quite a few people that took it seriously to isolate. We have a lot of health compromised people in our community, and a lot of people isolated, and it gets hard after 6 weeks to be told to stay home, that eventually you want to go out, and I get it. I get it. I understand people want to socialize. So so the rules are out there now, how to go to a restaurant, how to go golfing. I'm just going to ask people of Samson Cree Nation here who live here in Nipsikopak, all of you who live here, still be cautious. The virus is still out there. If you go golfing in some golf course out there, if you go to a restaurant in the city, please practice hygiene, okay? The virus is still out there, and even though they're opening up businesses, you could still possibly catch it and still bring it back here, okay? So I'm just because they're opening up the world doesn't mean it's safe. The COVID-19 is still there. One of the other questions I asked Dr. Henshaw, I want to thank Dr. Henshaw. She's the medical health rep for the Alberta government. She's on TV every night giving updates. She met with all the chiefs of Alberta on teleconference last week, and we all got a chance to ask her questions. One of the questions, I asked her 2 questions. I'll come to the second question in a bit. But the first question I asked her was from a science, from medicine perspective, because I read lots of news, and and we all know about fake news and all that other stuff. I want to hear from Alberta's top medical professional. When is a vaccine on the horizon? When is it actually going to happen medically for people? And she said, a year. That was her response. She said, possibly next year we might have a vaccine. So we're still a long ways away. I mean, just because Alberta government is opening up the province doesn't mean this virus is gone. It is still out there, and I just want to still caution people, please be careful, okay? Please be careful. So with that, we have to have an election. We're trying to figure this out. Everyone's trying to open up the government. At that same meeting with Dr. Henshaw, I asked her, okay, have you guys thought of how can First Nations who've had to postpone their elections, how can we have a social distancing safe election? And her response to me wasn't what I expected, but I'm sure it's not on their agenda at the moment. But she said, talk to ISK, go ask ISK. ISK is Indigenous Services Canada. And we have asked ISK, and they don't quite know yet either. And I think the message is simply this, Alberta, the feds, everyone, they're trying to get the barbershops open, they're trying to get food stores open, they're trying to get the economy going, and, on a priority scale of getting trying to get First Nations elections going, that's probably way down on their priority scale to get to that. I mean, they would, if we left it to them, they would eventually get to it. But, it would be probably a long time before they get there, right? Because they're trying to get everything else going with the economy. So that was kind of one of the lessons I've learned the last couple of weeks of these meetings with Indian Affairs and with Dr. Henshaw with the Alberta government, is that, they're not in a rush to figure out First Nations elections at the moment. Okay, they have other priorities. So we had every Tuesday we have a meeting with Treaty 6 chiefs. Okay, Grand Chief Billy Moore from Enoch is our Grand Chief, and he hosts a meeting. So we met on Tuesday, and we talk about issues and our positions with the government, and we talk about issues like, for example, you've all heard about the Sundance that got broken up by the RCMP in Beardy's Okamason, I believe, in Saskatchewan, right? So we set our support out to the community, and we're asking people to have some understanding in these matters, right? So, but anyways, so we do meet, and I had a private discussion with Chief Morin afterwards, and Chief Morin from Enoch. They're part of the casino nations, right? There's 5 nations in Alberta that have casinos on their reserves, and they're asking those questions. When can we open up our casinos, right? And again, with the Alberta government, it's not on their agenda. It's kind of down on their priority scale. They're trying to get other things going, right? And so I guess what the Alberta government told them was, well, you guys write the protocol. You guys write the rules, write the instructions. If you guys create them, we'll take a look at them and we'll get our medical health authorities to approve it or not. Okay, so that's what the casino nations are doing. They're trying to create the protocols on how to open up the casinos again. Okay, because again, we're all trying to figure out how to reopen after a massive shutdown, right? And so Chief Moore suggested at Samson that we should just write the election protocols. Okay, if you're not getting any responses from the government agencies about how to have an election, maybe you should just create them. And so we took that stance. Okay, so on Tuesday, I asked our senior administration here Tuesday evening after my discussion with Chief Moore, can you guys write us election rules? What are the rules? How do we have a social, safe, distancing election that would minimize the spread of COVID to have an election? And I asked them to write it, and they took on the challenge, okay? So Samson Cree Nation, we're going to take that responsibility of creating the protocols for First Nation to have an election during this COVID-19 pandemic time. So they're writing up the election. So Wednesday, I got a chance to talk with Minister Rick Wilson. I really appreciate him. He's our local representative here within Wetaskiwin region, Muskogee area. And I had a private conversation with him, and I asked him that question. Look, if we write the rules on how First Nation can have an election during this pandemic time, can you help me get it approved by the medical health authorities? And the nice thing is, Rick happens to sit on that committee, and he was more than happy. He said, once you get these protocols written, once you get them approved, give me a copy. I'll get our medical health authorities to approve it, and then we'll give it back to you. Then I'll go get it approved by Indigenous Services Canada, and then we'll probably call an election. So instead of waiting for the governments to tell us when we can have an election, we're just going to be proactive and figure out, we're going to write the rules, we're going to create it, and we'll figure out how to have a safe social distancing election here in Samson Cree Nation, okay? So it's not going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen next week, okay? It's still going to take a little bit of time. So the timeline is we've given our staff over for the weekend to finish writing the protocols. They're going to write up how to do this over the weekend. We're planning to have a meeting either next Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when they get this all written. The staff are going to be working on a draft for this, and we're going to get this approved by council, okay? Now, this is really simple. I don't want anybody getting their noses out of joint over this. This is just simple things like we have to keep people 6 feet apart, we have to hand out masks, we have to have PPE devices for all the staff who are working. It's just common sense rules, but we have to write these down, okay? This isn't going to be anything weird create. We're just going to write common sense down and try and figure out how can we have a social distancing election, okay? Now, one of the things I am going to say, it's going to be probably quite easy to have a social distancing election here in Muskogee, because as I said, we don't have any infections here in our community, right? So having it, if everyone practices safe social distancing, we can have a safe election here in our community. The concern is off reserve. Okay, we have a lot of members who live in Edmonton. We have a lot of members who live in Calgary, and right now Calgary is a hot zone, right? And traditionally, every election, we've always had polling stations in those two cities to allow our members off reserve a place to go and vote. So those are some of those obstacles that they have to figure out. Like, how do we provide voting to people off reserve, okay? So it is our probably the main focus. Writing an election for on reserve is going to be really easy, okay? The work they're doing over the weekend is trying to figure out, how do we do an off reserve election, okay? Do we do it online? Do we have a drive-through polling station? That was one suggestion. If we just sort of rent tents and put them up at the River Cree parking lots and the Grey Eagle parking lots and just have people drive up, vote, and leave. We're trying to figure out, how do you have an election off reserve with minimal human contact, right? That's what this is about. To try and figure out those new protocols, right? Because this is life post-COVID. We all got to try to figure out, how are we going to get businesses done? How are we going to get elections done in the time during a pandemic, right? So they're going to try and figure those out, figure out those procedures, figure out those processes, and then we'll try and get it approved and then we're going to ship them out to our medical health authorities early next week, hopefully get it approved. Now, once it's approved, okay, then we got to give time, probably give a 30-day notice. I don't know, it's just a number I'm picking out of my head right now, simply because there's still things that need to happen, okay? In having an election, we need to protect our election staff, okay? We need to get PPE devices, all right? We're going to need about 80 outfits, because we're going to have to do nominations and elections, and we have to, clothe our people properly. We're going to be sitting behind handing out election ballots, right? So we have to protect them. So we got to figure out, can we get PPE devices for them, all right? So we got to answer those questions. We got to talk to the RCMP. They've shut down criminal record checks. So we got to phone them up and say, hey, do you guys mind opening up criminal record checks? We got to ask Walmart or other places, where do you get a passport photo? Okay, these are little things we got to figure out. And so that's why I'm saying maybe we have to give a 30-day notice just so we can get people give a chance to figure out how to get those pieces if they're going to run. Okay, so for all you people out there saying, you're taking too long, all right, well, put yourself in Walmart shoes and the RCMP shoes. Okay, they're going to be providing services to us, so we got to go on their schedule too. So, okay, so we're going to try and figure out how do we have a safe election where COVID-19 is not going to be a problem for us, and to give people enough time to make sure we have a fair election. Okay, as I said before, I don't regret delaying our election to make sure we found a safe time to have it, and we are going to find a safe time to have our election. Okay, so I hope sometime in the middle of June we can start this, but it's definitely going to come sooner than later. Okay, so we are going to work towards it, and as soon as medical health authorities deem it safe to have an election, we're going to go ahead and have an election. Okay, so it is coming. All right, we are working on it. All right, a couple good news things I want to talk about really fast though here. Okay, before as I end. So, financial donations during this time, and I mentioned this last, we had a couple companies give us money during the pandemic, and I really, really thank you. Enbridge and TC Energy both gave us $10,000. Really appreciate this. Okay, here's a couple other donations that were given to us. Okay, Procter & Gamble. Okay. Thank you. They gave us $130,000 worth of feminine hygiene products, okay? So there's a whole bunch of feminine hygiene products at the arena right now, and they're giving them out to Nation members, right? ATCO donated microwaves, fridge, and mattresses for our shelter, okay? So thank you, ATCO, for that kind donation. We've gotten food donations from MHS. We've got food donations from Wolf Creek School Division. And MESC, our Musqueam Education School Commission. They cover 1/5 of the food we hand out to our nation members. 20%. They're paying for 20% of the food every time we hand out food to our nation members. So, thank you, MESC, for your kind to everyone for the kind donation to Samson Cree Nation during this time. I want to thank Mamoy Tuskegee Town Native School out in Panuca County. We have a lot of our Samson students that do go to school there. They are donating soup and macaroni to our next food delivery to our community out here. So, so thank you. A lot of school divisions. I know our education system is changing in how we teach our kids, but I really appreciate the schools still reaching out to figure out how to feed our kids still. So thank you to all the school divisions for reaching out to make sure our kids have proper food security in our community. So thank you very much. The last one I want to mention is just the village of Clive. I really want to thank you people. It's a village, and what they did and I need to read this. Okay, members of the Morton Historical Multicultural Center, and I hope I said that properly. The Morton Historical Multicultural. The members there have been creating scrub bags for Alberta's healthcare workers, first line workers. Have been creating these scrub bags, and they created 25 sets, and they donated them to Musqueam here at Samson. They donated those here at Samson, and I really want to thank you people out there. I really appreciate the gift we give to our food security people that are working at the arena right now, creating food bags for our people, and they are definitely being currently used right now. So I really, really want to thank the people of Clive for your kind donation and for them to reach out to help all Alberta healthcare, because we all have to say a thank you to our medical health. And I can't say enough about every week to our ambulance workers, our hospital workers, our nurses, our doctors, our frontline workers that put themselves at risk every day to try and get us through this pandemic. Our security guards who are keeping our people safe here, our public works, our grader operators. The people are collecting garbage. It's just there's so many people that are still out there in the front lines, and thank you for keeping our communities going, keeping Samson Cree Nation going, keeping Alberta going. Thank you. You're the reason that this COVID is we're flattening the curve on this pandemic. So thank you very much. Okay. The last shout out is this. Okay. I drive by Malmo Road every day, and I watch the path, and my shout out today is for Harley Johnson and Kelly Saddleback, and Kelly, your kids. I see you guys on a bike, so biking the path. I ran to Harley this morning. They've biked 180 miles since the pandemic started. So, a lot of people taking this and turning it into a positive, So those two guys, they're losing weight, getting in shape. So thanks, guys, for being leaders out there. I see the ladies out there running on the trails. So lots. And one last shout out. There's a group of people out there paying it forward. it's a funny word. I hope I got it right. They're calling it elfing or something like that. What it is, they're leaving gifts, positive gifts at people's doorsteps. They're ringing doorbells and they're running like crazy and hiding. It's a nice way during this time of social distancing to pay forward some really good energy and some gifts to everyone. So, so everyone, please, be safe. Keep up the great work, everybody. And it goes without saying, we're in this together. And if we all keep working together, being cautious, we're going to go through this pandemic together. So thank you, everybody, for now. And no temtic. Coming up next is Harper. So Harper, you're up. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Nistamina takskamna kakio muskajisak. As the chief said this morning, he talked about the cases on First Nations. And I'm just going to read a little bit of this real quickly to you. Relaunching, Saskatchewan, we've all heard it on the news. And this is just a bit of it. The quickly spreading outbreak is what many health professionals had feared would happen if COVID-19 made its way to an Indigenous community. And here's the timeline. This is important. April 29th, 2020, they had 38 active reported cases, Relaunching. The provincial government starts robocalls asking healthcare providers to relocate to northern Saskatchewan for 1 month to increase capacity to contain the outbreak. Initial cases were linked to a Curl oil sands camp in northern Alberta. So a bunch of the First Nations, remember, they're working one of the camps in northern Alberta. May 8th, 2020, 21 cases reported in nearby Clearwater River Dene First Nations, and 136 in Relaunching. So, it went up how fast. May 9th, 2020, 9 new cases in the previous 24 hours, now reporting 148 cases in Relaunching. So, that's how quickly it's spreading. Majority of the cases are in young people and youth and young adults. There are, however, also noted cases in healthcare workers and long-term care residents. 2 elders had passed away. And some of this inadequate nursing support in community, inadequate PPE supplies in the community. Grocery stores now closed due to employees testing positive with COVID-19. Liquor stores are closed, leaving the community to try and support those struggling with chronic alcohol addictions. So, when we talk about First Nations, this is how quickly it can spread. And that's why we keep on with the checkpoints into the nation. We distribute food to the nation to try to keep the people home. Like we say, Alberta's opening up, and I'm still not in agreement with it. The peak is supposed to be mid-May, end of May, and here we are in mid-May, and they're opening up. I don't know why they'd want to do that. My encouragement to you is to stay home. As the chief said, stay home. I've been asked to go out golfing a few times. I've still turned it down. I probably won't go till the end of May. I'd love to go, but my health and safety for the First Nation is more important than that right now. So with that, I'll go on to my report. MHS, Muskogee's Health Services, we did tour the school last week, and it was great. If you go on our Facebook page, Samson Cree Nation, I had Delorna Mackinac come along with me, and she did take photographs of the school, the setup, the beds, all the supplies. Everything's ready. Everything's ready there. We did have one individual we removed from a house, and we took him to the school. The test this morning came back negative, so that's great. In the last 3 weeks, we've had 7 now that have been tested for COVID-19, and they've all come back negative. So that's still a plus on our side, and we're still doing what we can, to keep our nation clear. Yellowhead Tribal Council in Ochise came to tour the trailers at the Bear Park in Ermineskin. They want to see what we're doing as a nation, as 4 nations. How are we responding? What are we doing? How are we getting together? What are we doing from the health perspective? And then it's funneled down into our First Nations, with the closures, the roadblocks, the distribution of food, if a case comes, everything. So they're very impressed, and we're still expecting a few other council members from Yellowhead Tribal Council to come and see it once again, so they'll get even a better understanding. So that's great news, for Musquechies, for the 4 nations, that we're being recognized out there by other First Nations. So, that's great. This past weekend, we finished delivering food in Mamio. We did a 1 to 6 mile as well. And, I believe in the last 2 weeks, we did about 1,000 food hampers, which is great. And out of those 1,000 food hampers, we had about 20 homes that were missed. So that's great. I know if you were missed, you can still go to the arena, call in at the arena. They'll meet you at the gate there, and they'll show you the back of the arena, and you can go in there and pick up your food hamper. They'll be doing that till 2:00. If not, if you don't have a vehicle, again, call the arena, 585-3771, extension 3, and they'll get your name, and they'll still take a hamper out to you, so that's great. And like the chief noted, Mama Way is donating soup and macaroni for June. So we will be doing a distribution in June as well. We're already starting to prepare. We're getting food items ordered as we go along. Off reserve, it's still going great. We had about 2,600 band members off the reserve, living off the reserve. Remember talking with the Wilda Buffalo from membership. She mentioned that we had roughly 2,600 band members living off the reserve. And she has a couple of emails. One email had about 1,500 emails on it. The other one had about 400. And then she had about 300 text messages on her phone. So you can imagine how slow the process is. Out of those 2,600, something like that, we had 98 envelopes come back. So even though they provided us an address, they were sent back. So now they have to get in contact with those people again and ask them again, give us your new address. So if you haven't had one, please be patient. The women have been working there for the last 3 weeks. They've been doing it day by day, and it is a slow process, but we will eventually get the gift cards out to you. So that's great. Mamio Beach, like I mentioned earlier, we deliver to everyone out there on Samson Cree Nation. And there is one house from Montana Cree Nation. I told them deliver to that house as well, and they were more than happy to receive a package. I talked with the Dem from Montana Cree Nation, Gina Longjohn, and I told her we'll take care of that house out there for you. It's just one house. It's it's nothing to worry about, and they're happy. They're happy with that, so that's great. The homeless shelter, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet, and maybe because of our guidelines, but we set up those guidelines for the protection of not only the employees that are going there, that are working there, but also too, if we have 2 or 3 members in there and one starts showing signs and symptoms, we have to think of their safety as well. So we do put up guidelines and rules for them to follow, but it still is open. We have staff there. So if you need a place, or if you know someone that needs a place for the night or two, by all means, send them to the shelter. We have them there. They got cots there, they got mattresses, they got blankets. They even got shower there for you to shower. They'll feed you in the morning. They'll feed you in the afternoon, and so it's good for those reasons. Going on, housing. The Whoville house is finally done. It's all furnished. It's ready to go. We have someone there staying there until. And this is just in case a family needs to be relocated. It's a 3-bedroom house. So, we have that in mind. And if a case does come up, then we will be moving that family into that house. 55 and 61, they're still being worked on. As mentioned in my last report, we have mold in those houses, so we have to take care of the mold issue first before we can allow members to move in there. So it's taking a little bit longer, but we are still moving along, and we are still going to get them fixed. And like, again, just be prepared. Always trying to be proactive in a case a case comes to our First Nation instead of reactive. So that's great. The town site, it's been busy as usual. We haven't had any real reports. Yes, we still have some members drinking and partying going on, but we still have the check stops up, and and working with the RCMP, the fire hall, the ambulance. We're all working together just to keep the community safe. So it's still going on great. The band office, we set up a triage, and we have Angela Boyces and a few other ladies working out front there. They'll ask you the questions, the COVID-19 questions, the triage questions. They'll take your temperature. Anything over 37.4, we don't allow into the building here. Once we get up to 50 employees within the nation, we cut it off. No more. People have to wait outside till somebody comes out, then we'll allow another one in. And it's basically something like some of the stores in town where you have to wait in line, But again, there it's for the safety of the people. The reentry, we put in as reentry, starting to look at getting back to work in June. I know I'm meeting with the senior managers at 3:00 this afternoon, and we're going to discuss, as Alberta's putting back everybody into place, back into business, we too in Samson Cree Nation are doing the same. So we'll be talking about how do we do a re-entry program? How many staff can we allow into the building, to keep the social distancing? We'll be talking about that. So that's great. And the last one I have here is the bingo hall. I had a call from the bingo hall before I came downstairs, and they were doing a cash draw. They're hoping to do it at 3:00 today, $5 a ticket. What their payout is 75% payout. So that's great. So if you want a ticket, go to the bingo hall, get a ticket. They're $5 a piece. It's a 50-50 draw, but they're paying out 75%. So just to keep something going in the community, keep us going, and their number is 780-585-2802. So with that, I know it's a long weekend, and we look forward to having our break on a long weekend. And, we all need a break, and continue to pray for not only our community, but all the other First Nations out there. Pray for our frontline workers. Every day our frontline workers come out, even the ones delivering food, they're putting their lives at risk so that you'll have a safe future. So keep them in prayer. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone. Hi.